Hello everybody, welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. I'm back with an interesting video for you. Today we're going to continue on our Pathfinder Phase 1 certification course. We are in Block 6, Module 1. We're going to be talking about primitive camp tools, I believe is what it is. And we're going to be making a spear today. Now behind me, you can see that I have a piece of tamarack, okay, and it's pretty decent in length. I want something a little taller than me, but this one's a little thin. I'm hoping for something hardwood, at least 1.5 inches in diameter, something strong that I can use as a spear. So I'm going to go ahead and let this one go. I want something straight, and I'm using these tamaracks because they're abundant out here where I'm at. They grow like weeds and it doesn't hurt anything. If you don't have these salt cedars in your area, you can also use things like maybe an oak sapling or something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and keep looking, and hopefully we'll find something that we can use to make as our primitive spear. Right here's another nice one. This red one, it's very straight, but it's just not the diameter that I'm looking for. That's about 3/4 inch. It's long enough, but I want something a little bit thicker. Here's something really nice, but unfortunately it's too big. It's the perfect height, but it's a little bit too heavy duty. So I'm gonna keep looking, find something just a tiny bit smaller. I think I finally found one that I like. Take a look here. It's about 1.25 inches in diameter. Looks really good. Alright, this looks good. See the quality of that wood? I stand it on the ground, you can see that it's about my height, a little bit longer, so I'll probably whack it off right here, and it'll be a good almost 6 foot long. And I'm still looking just in case I find anything a little bit better. Okay folks, I have quite a few options here. I'm going to take these back to camp. Anything that, you know, I'm not going to be using for a spear, I can use for other things around camp, and that's the point that I'm trying to encourage in this section here. These things, again, the only reason that I'm being so generous in taking these is because, again, they grow like weeds in here and it doesn't hurt the population of these things at all. So I don't feel bad at all, not one bit, taking this many. We'll see you back at camp. This is a piece of hardwood, and I had very specific things that I wanted this piece to be, because it's going to be a spear and it's going to have many uses to it. And I wanted a hardwood, I wanted a certain diameter, I wanted at least a 1-inch diameter, approximately 6 feet long, and I wanted it to be a hardwood that was green. So this piece here is what I have, and this is a piece of tamarack, which that's what we call it locally. I think the technical name is a salt cedar, but what I need to do right now is I need to get my baco out, and I need to cut it about head height, a little higher than my head actually. So I'm gonna measure real quick and then I'll be right back with the camera. Right here is where I need to cut it. I'm gonna take my legs, I'm gonna get them out of the way, and anytime I cut, I want to make sure that I have a room for my saw to go in case my hand slips or something like that. So I'm gonna cut right here, keeping my leg out of the way and stuff. The rest of this can be used to help with the back side of my shelter to keep these tarps from rattling. I sure love this Baco Laplander. So that leaves me with this. Now, obviously, I now have a piece of wood, okay? And the bottom, you can see, is a hardwood. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that too, because I want that to be nice and clean. Again, making sure that my saw has a place to go in case I slip or something. Look at how pretty that wood is. That's a hardwood, and that's definitely, I would say, a little tiny bit over 1 inch in diameter. And that's exactly what I want. So the objective of this weapon, and that's the primary use of a spear, as a self-defense weapon for your camp. And I'll talk about some of the other uses for the spear here in a little bit, but I want to get rid of some of this stuff off of here. So I'm going to just use my knife, and I'm just going to kind of clean. And I'm going to leave this bark that they have on here, this natural tamarack bark, this salt cedar bark. I'm going to leave that on there. But I need to start to make a point. So I'm going to do a little bit of cutting here, and it's kind of a pickle right here because there was a knot right there where I cut. So it might take a little bit of effort. Now you can see I'm cleanly going away from me with my knife, and there's nobody in front of me or anything like that. So if I slip, my knife has plenty places to go. So I mean, it might look a little reckless, but it's completely safe, to be honest with you. There's nothing crazy going on, but I want to make, and one thing I want to talk about is the taper of the point. I don't want a long, I don't want a long taper, and like the taper that you would see on the top of a spindle on a bow drill set. I don't want that kind of a taper. I want a taper like you would see on the bottom of a spindle on a bow drill set. I want a nice, abrupt point. This is hardwood too, and it's right there. You can see in the wood there was a knot right there. See that in the grain? So that's why I'm having a little trouble. I got all kinds of little wood shavings. Here's a look at the working end of the spear as I have it right now. Now you can see that it's not very sharp. I'm going to hand sharpen the rest of it by push cutting with my knife, just like this. I'm going to get that little bit of edge sharpness. Now I don't want it like crazy gorilla sharp. I just want it sharp enough, because what I'm going to do here pretty soon is I'm going to dip the tip in the fire, not for a long period of time, but just for a short period of time. And what that's going to do is that's going to fire harden the tip on this. A second ago I was kind of complaining that this was a knot here at the end, but I'm actually glad it is now, because that's going to give me a really hard place. So I'm going to stick this thing in the fire, and while it's in the fire hardening, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the uses for this spear, what I can use it for. First thing is that I can use my spear for is I can use it for protection. I can use it for protection either by holding something off, something away from me, or I can use it for protection to use it almost like as if it was a javelin where I could throw it. Now, if I take the bottom here and I split this into 4 little sections, and I put 2 toggles in opposing each other, and I wrap this, I can sharpen all 4 of those points and use this as a fishing gig. So that would make fishing a little more, I guess you could say it would better my chances as if I was going to use it to fish. Now I'm just dangling this thing in the coals. I'm not leaving it in the whole time. I'm just going in and out because I don't want to cook it. I don't want to burn it. I just want to heat it up. Okay, another thing that I could use this for, if I have paracord, which I do, it's part of my 10Cs, I do have paracord in there. If I break down those 7 inner strands, I can use that paracord to make a primitive fishing line, and I could use this as my fishing pole. So it'll give me about 6 feet of distance. So if I'm standing on a rock or something, trying to fish over the edge of a rock, something like that, it would help me in that application. So there's a piece of wood hung up on the fire, bear with me. Another thing I can use it for, this stick here, this spear, is I can hunt with it. Hunting. Again, I could throw it like a javelin if I needed to. I can also use it as a walking stick, which is very good because right now the bottom is just flat and blunt, so it could be a nice walking stick. Along the lines of walking stick, if I take and I put 10 notches on the bottom of the walking stick, you're probably going to wonder what I'm talking about, but it'll make sense here in a minute. So I have a notch here. You can see that little notch all the way around, right? If I put 10 of those down here, and I have some hair ties, it doesn't matter what color, like in this case we could use the black one, right? And the black one's sitting on this notch. Okay, I have 10 positions that could be on, so we could use this brown one too. It doesn't matter what color, as long as you have one on one of the notches. If you have 10 notches, each notch would represent 100 meters, okay? So if you move, you know, you got your pace count down, so for me it's 66 paces. So for me, when I walk 66 paces, I would move that down to the next notch, okay? So now, let's assume that we're on the second notch now. I would know that I have traveled 200 meters. So we could use this as a pace count stick to figure out distance of travel. And that's really good around camp, because if we're walking around and we see a downed elk carcass that we could come back later for and get sinew off of his back or tallow off of the fat of his body or something like that, we know how many pace counts that it took, so therefore we know approximately how many meters by the 100 that thing is from our camp. So that's how we could use it as a pace count. Now another thing that we could use this for, and this is something that a lot of people don't think about, but we could use this as a sun compass. So we could stick this in the ground and we could watch the shadow cast, and there's two methods that we could use. We could use a shadow stick method, or we could lean it into the sun to where it does not leave a shadow and do a shadowless stick method. In either case, we're going to find out our cardinal bearings, north, south, east, and west, with this stick. That works really good for that. Another thing that we could do is, if we have a bright colored bandana, we could attach our bandana to the end of it, and we could wave this thing around like a flag for signaling. Okay, we could also use this to help hold a tarp up on our shelter. We could use this as a splint if we needed to, or as crutches. And we could use this also, let's say we're walking around and we see a pool of water and we don't know how deep that water is. We could stick this down as a depth gauge to find out approximately how deep that water is. Now, right now in the background you can't see it, but you know that I have a fire pit back there. So what am I using it for? Well, I'm hardening the point, but I'm also using it as a fire poker. I could also use it as a pot lifter. I could lower my water bottle over the fire with this stick. I could use it, if I want to lash a couple more sticks to the end of it, I could make a paddle out of it if I'm in a canoe or something. Again, measuring stick, I mentioned that earlier. If I wanted to hang my bag up in a tree, maybe I had food in a dry bag or something and I didn't want the bears in the area or wild game or predators to come in and get that meat, well then I could use this to give me length to help hang my bag up in the trees, okay, to hide my food. I could also use this to hang horizontally between two poles, and I could hang laundry on it to dry. So it could be a laundry stick. I could also make a tripod and have two walking sticks, and then put a couple horizontal sticks across, and I could put that over a fire and use the smoke, not the flames, but the smoke, to jerk my meat and make jerky. Okay, again, it needs to be up away from the flames, just in the smoke. So what else can I use it for? I can use it to purify multiple bottles of water over the fire. For example, if I have 2 or 3 stainless steel bottles and I have the fish mouth spreaders, I could put 3 of them on the tip of this thing and hang all 3 of them over the fire. And that would be a good use for this. I'm trying to think of what else. I have stuff written down that I'm looking at on my notes, to be honest with you. I could use it as a digging stick. So there's just a lot of things that I can use this spear for. So this is, again, this is block 6, module 1, and this is my primitive spear. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Next time you see me, we'll be in block 6, module 2, and we're going to be talking about food preparation, and more specifically, I'm going to make 3 tools, at least 3 of them, that we can use at camp to help with processing our food or cooking our food or something of that nature. So stay with me. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed the video today.